Hey everyone, I'm Stephanie, host and head bookologist here at the Get Literate podcast. I'm a book loving, notebook hoarding reader and writer on a mission to change lives one book and one notebook at a time. On this podcast, we explore the power of books and reading and notebooks and writing to make life better and to feel better too. You'll find episodes exploring the reading and writing life and how it can make our actual lives better. You'll get book recommendations and notebook invitations around particular themes, and you'll meet authors and special guests who'll help us take inspired action in our own daily practices. So, grab a notebook and your TBR list, and let's get literate. Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Get Literate podcast. I'm Stephanie Affinito, your host, and as always, I'm here with an episode on how reading and writing can make life better. Today, we are diving into book clubs, something we have yet to focus on in my almost 200 episodes of the podcast. But we're not just talking about regular book clubs or typical book clubs. We're talking about book clubs that heal, book clubs that make life better, book clubs that have this sense of collective growth. We're going to talk about the how, we're going to talk about the why, we're going to talk about the what, all of the things, everything in between related to book clubs and how they are an under-discussed form of making life better and why. So first, let me define what I actually mean by book clubs, because there are a couple of different ways that we could approach this. First, you might have your more typical form of a book club, either in person or virtual, where a group of people get together to read the same book, or have what I like to call a literary society meeting after that wonderful book, the Literary Potato Peel Pie Society. You know the book I'm talking about, right? So that's one kind of book club. Get together in person or virtually to talk about a book or to share the current titles that you're reading. But that is not the only way to have a book club. You could have a book club of two, right? You could just buddy up with someone, read the same book together, and talk about it. Technically, that's a book club. Anything beyond you talking about a book could be considered a club. And that means something like a book relay could also count. Something we've done inside my Get Literate community. There were actually 8 of us in this relay, and we just kept passing books around and around and around and around and got a book club experience without ever actually talking to someone in real time. But there's also a third kind of book club that I think we don't consider book club like. And that's the simple fact of participating in a larger collective around a book. So think about participating in Reese's book club, in Oprah's book club, in the Book of the Month club. We may not meet live. We may not actually talk to other people reading that book with that person, but we're part of a bigger scenario around it. We are part of the experience because we're reading it and we know other people are reading it. And so it may not be a traditional book club, but it can still foster a sense of a book club. So you might think about the book clubs that are in your life right now. Do you have a typical, more traditional book club? Do you buddy read with someone? Are you in a book relay? Or do you just participate in those larger book collectives that can feel like a book club? Now, regardless of which kind of book club you're in, I believe that book clubs can heal, right? So, sure, we could have book clubs that are dedicated to healing, right? Where we read a book that is focused on personal growth or transformation or self-help in some way. And we can come together with the goal of feeling better, of making life better, of learning something to make our life different. But just like my beliefs around bibliotherapy, which are any book can be a catalyst for healing. Any book can be a so-called bibliotherapy book. It's not the book that matters. Well, it kind of is. But first, it's the stance that matters. You're approaching that book with the idea that that book is going to contain information that could change your life and make it better. And the same applies to book clubs. Whether you are reading a personal development text or the newest women's fiction or the scariest horror that just came out or a book of poetry, all of those books, when talked about in community with others, have the potential to heal, have the potential to make our life better and bigger simply by reading them together, by thinking together, by getting new perspectives, and by being part of a larger community. So, why? Why does this work? Well, when we read alone, right, we're by ourselves. That has benefit, that has merit, but we are engaging with a text privately. We're thinking of our own thoughts and our own reflections. But when we read with a group, different things happen, right? When you read with a group, you get a different idea, you get a different perspective. You actually read the book differently, knowing that you're going to have to talk about it, that you're going to have to find quotes that meant something to you, that you're going to have some sort of reflection on what you thought about it or how you rated it or why it mattered to you. So when you read with the idea that you are going to be part of the book club, you tend to read more actively. You tend to read with a different stance. You want to have something to contribute. And that action, that reading with even more of an open mind and an open heart, is what is a catalyst for the healing that could come as being part of the group. But then when you are talking about it together, that's when good stuff happens. You see things from a different way. You hear someone else's perspective that could increase your ideas of empathy. It could boost your sense of connection with those other peoples who are reading the book, and it strengthens your community of readers, right? There's a lot of research out there on what makes life good, what promotes happiness. And that one Harvard study that researched happiness over that really long longitudinal study found that the best predictor of a life of happiness was the amount and the quality of meaningful relationships you had at the end of your life. Book people are good people. Your book club can be such a source of comfort, of inspiration, of connection, of friendship. I know that my Get Literate book club community that has met since 2022, we are a tight-knit group of people. There are a bunch of us that meet live, and our lives extend outside of the book club. But then there are others who are participating in the chat or the posts or just reading the book, even if they don't participate. We feel that. That energy makes us feel better. So it's a sense of accountability in terms of preparing for a book club. But in the end, you just get a group of people who care about reading and books, and eventually they care about you too. They become friends. It becomes much bigger than a book club. But I do want to talk about the healing power of story. In addition to the healing power of reading with a group and getting that sense of belonging and feeling that sense of care, we know that stories heal, right? There's so much research on the power of story. And in particular, I think we could talk about that phrase that books are mirrors and windows. Technically, it's mirrors and windows and sliding glass doors by, oh gosh, Dr. Rudine Bishop Sims. I maybe messing the name right. Mirrors and windows are not mine. It comes from a lot of research behind me. But when we read, we can read books that validate our experience, that act as mirrors, right? That tell us we are not alone. We are in this together with someone, even if that someone is fictional. But we can also get those windows when we can read something and think, oh, I didn't think about it that way. I didn't think of my story from that perspective. I didn't think of that person in my life from that perspective. And then we get something new and something different to consider that if we take action on it, can actually help life feel better. This is that kind of collective healing that a book can bring. Because without those experiences, without those conversations, we can't grow in that way. And so book clubs just give us this powerful opportunity to step outside of ourselves while also stepping inside of ourselves and figuring out what that means for all of us. So, how do we do it? Well, as I mentioned, it's the stance that is most important. You could join any book club at any time with the personal stance in your mind and in your heart that this book is going to help your life in some way. And participating in this particular book group, book club, is going to help your life in some way, even if no one else knows it. Even if the group isn't focused on that kind of stance, on that kind of healing, you can make it happen simply by shifting the energy in your own self and expecting that to happen. But if a group of people come together around a book with a shared sense of collective healing, that this book club is going to give them something to really sink into and to make life better in whatever way they want it to be better, well, magic, of course, can happen. So, first, you just need to come together with a group. Maybe you reach out to your local book club that you know about. Maybe you find one online. Maybe you join my Get Literate book club. Maybe you just reach out to a bestie or a book bestie and start reading a book together. Come together with a group in a way that works for you and feels good for you and works with your schedule. That may be synchronous, it may be asynchronous. There is a book club for every personality type out there. And then choose the book. Right now, you can go through a lot of my back episodes on how to choose books to make life better, how to choose books for bibliotherapy, what kinds of books and genres are best for you. But the idea is that you want to find a book that could give you that balance of mirrors and windows that you're looking for, can help you feel seen and validated and present, but also give you something else to think about and a different perspective to come to, especially in the conversation with the group. Now, ideally, if your book club really is focused on healing, you could weave in some additional restorative practices to this too. You could add a couple of opening deep breaths to your book club. You could put in some yoga poses or stretches in between conversational questions, or maybe you even add in some restorative journaling. All of that adds to the experience. But the questions that the group talks about could be most important. So I want to give you 4 questions that you could ask in your next book club conversation that could change the focus of your book club from just a group of people coming together to talk about a book to a group of people coming together to talk about a book to make life better. So, question 1, what lines resonated with me and why do I think they did so? Right? So this is where you ask the group, which quotes did you underline? Which did you highlight in your Kindle? Where are your sticky notes? Where are your flags? Let's talk about the lines that made us stop in our tracks, that made us reread, that made us think. These are messages. These are nudges from the book. They want you to stop and think. So just talking about, on a very basic literal level, what were the words and phrases and sentences that made me stop? That's a first step. The second question you could ask is, what feelings does the book, do those phrases, do those sentences? What feelings do they evoke that I could really lean into? Whether they're positive feelings, negative feelings, confusing feelings, frustrating feelings, they're feelings. And those lines stop you in your tracks for a reason. And so really lean into why and how it makes you feel, even if it isn't something that you quite want to experience at first. Then move into this. What does this book need me to know right now? Based on those lines, based on those feelings, what message might I take away from the book in this moment? And that leads to the fourth question. So what? What inspired action might I take in relation to all that I just talked about with the other members of my group that could make life better starting tomorrow? That could make life better as a result of reading the book and talking about it and going deeper in this process with others. That is where the rubber meets the road, right? It's those small little actions that you take, those small little rituals that you build into your life, maybe even the small actions that collectively your book club decides to do to make life better. Those are the things that help us go from the page to our lives that we might not do without that sense of accountability in a group, right? In a group, we can feel heard more than we are talking to ourselves alone. We can get that sense of connection. We can dive into this idea of reading more actively and reflecting on our reading. And we get a lot more diversity of thought than just thinking about the books ourselves. Our group members can push us in a not pushy way to consider something else and to consider something new. And when we take action on those thoughts, that's when everything can fall into place. So here's what I urge you to do. As we move into this fall season, think about where a book club could fit into your life. Do you join one in person? Do you join my Get Literate virtual book club? Do you just reach out to a bestie and decide to voice text back and forth around a particular title? Or do you just choose a book in one of those bigger, larger book club collectives and just know that you're in it with others and you can participate asynchronously on a Facebook group or in some sort of social media hashtag chat? See where you might add a book club to your autumn season and see what it does for you. See what it does for your sense of connection. See what it does to your reading life. See what it does to your actual life as we move into a very busy and often stressful holiday season. Your book club could be the thing that helps hold you together and makes life better. All right, everyone. Thanks for listening to another episode of the Get Literate podcast. I hope to see you inside my private Substack community where you can join my book club. And yep, you guessed it. We'll be asking ourselves some of these questions on the book that we are reading together this month. We meet the last Thursday of every month, 7 p.m. Eastern Time on Zoom, and I would love to see you there. See you in the next episode, everyone. Thanks for listening to today's episode of the Get Literate podcast. You'll find links to all of the books, resources, and ideas mentioned on the episode in the show notes and at alitlife.com. And if you want more, you might like to join my Substack community. There, you'll find additional inspiration for your reading and writing life, like bonus podcast episodes, bibliotherapy book calendars, monthly book clubs, notebooking inspiration, live events, giveaways, and much more. It's only $5 a month, and you'll get instant access to all of the previous content too. You can learn more at getliterate.co. And one more thing, if you love what you listened to today, please take a moment to rate and review the podcast, or take a screenshot of the episode and text it to a bookish friend. This helps the podcast grow and builds our bookish and notebookish communities too. Thanks for listening.